now it's time to turn it up. Surf the radio waves as we begin to burn it up. We all up in your area like landscape, definitely bringing you the pancakes. It's a mandate that you tune in. It's time to move out so we can move in and recognize that this is no illusion. I'm here to clear the air so that there is no confusion. It all started off in the book of Genesis when Jacob was wrestling with who he thought was his nemesis. And when the man saw he couldn't overpower him, he touched his hip but he really couldn't devour him. And from that point, then we hear a name change, rearrange the game, so now we gotta change lanes. So I'm here to let you know it's time to listen to the Pancake and Powerslam Show. Let's go! Turn it up, turn it up. It's the Pancake and Powerslam. Turn it up, turn it up. It's the Pancake and Powerslam. Turn it up, turn it up. It's the Pancake and Powerslam Show. Turn it up, turn it up. It's the Pancake and Powerslam. Turn it up, turn it up. It's the Pancake and Powerslam. Turn it up, turn it up. It's the Pancake and Powerslam Show. Turn it up.
There we go. What's going on, everybody? What's going on, PNP Nation? This is Dr. Chris here once again for episode 523 of the Pancakes and Powerslams Show. We are live and living Kelligan, Fungalang, if you will. We already have a spammer. We've got a spammer on PNP right now. I'm going to block. Deleted. Yes. Delete. 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 So we do. We delete, ladies and gentlemen. Delete. All right. Of course, PNP Nation is ready to rock and roll. What's up, C. Rye? What's up, Ricky in the building? All right. Let's jump into the, of course, hashtag Ask Doc. That's what's going to stick out here. Definitely should be kept 2 nights and makes them much bigger and makes more money for WWE in whichever city they're in. As much easier to watch at home. And those for you, if your storylines go into night 2, people have got another night of May to look forward to. I'm happy it's 2 nights going forward. I'm not happy about that because there was so much filler in WrestleMania. This year, it was so much filler. 2 years ago, tons of filler. This year, filler. It doesn't make the match. WrestleMania, I've watched every single WrestleMania. I've been watching wrestling since the beginning of WrestleMania. And WrestleMania is a showcase of the immortals. It is the creme de la creme. It is the granddaddy of them all. And WrestleMania is a culmination pay-per-view. It is the end of angles that has caused intrigue and interest. It is an opportunity. It is a coming out party in many cases to stars to ascend them to the next level, like your Steve Austin's, so to speak, beating Shawn Michaels, like your Shawn Michaels beating Bret Hart. It's just like your Hulk Hogan's even beating Andre's. Although Hogan was established at the time, he still had that big hurdle to climb with Andre the Giant. It's always, back in the day, opportunities. Randy Savage at WrestleMania 4, the tournament. It really was an amazing pay-per-view to really get wrestlers to the next level. And WrestleMania has that is a lost art at WrestleMania, for one. And for two, having it 2 nights is overkill. It's oversaturation. I am not interested whatsoever in a WrestleMania card that looks like a weekly card. I'm not interested. It's a bad call. And too much oversaturation leads to a loss of interest. And It's just not a good. It's not a good call. I think it would have been more interesting to do NXT, to give NXT that Saturday night spot instead of a Saturday afternoon spot. It's just an oversaturation. You had Saturday afternoon NXT, then you had 2 nights of WrestleMania. And night 1 was a drag. It was a drag. It felt the matches were just so long and it was just dragging. It just felt like a drag. Now, the pace of night 2 was better to me, actually. I prefer night 2 rather than night 1. It was a drag. Night 1 was long and drawn out. The Austin segment turn match was just long. It was, I mean, the segment was long. The match was long. Austin's almost 57 years old. So, of course, I mean, it's been almost 20 years since he's actually competed in a match. It was just too long. He was slow. Just because he's 57 doesn't mean that he has to be slow. I mean, I'm a certified personal trainer. I've trained people older than Austin. That's a lot faster. So just because you're 57 doesn't mean that you have to just, get slow. Austin just hasn't, that just hasn't been his deal, since retiring. Austin hasn't let himself go, but he just hasn't been in ring shape and not good cardiovascular shape. I mean, he would be the first one to say that it's a difference between working out and having good ring shape and good cardio. So, yeah, I just the Cody pop was cool. I like return pops. Just as long as it's done correctly, not an oversaturation of return pops like AEW does every week. Pop, 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 debut pop, return pop, debut, pop, pop, pop. That doesn't make it stand out. If I see a bunch of the same thing, nothing stands out. If it's if it's the same thing, if I see a bunch of the same thing, that's the reason why 50-50 booking is trash. It is horrible and no one stands out. Because it's the bunch of the same thing. And nothing really stood out. You do the Cody pop, that was cool. Super cool. Kept the same music, that was cool. Same entrance. It's crazy because that was an AEW entrance, and he just ripped that and put it right in the WWE thing. And this is also interesting because Cody Rhodes is the first AEW defect. I found that pretty interesting too. The first AEW defect. And will we see more? Is that the beginning of an exodus of people in AEW that will defect? I mean, AEW is Cody's baby. I mean, he was the mastermind behind AEW. So, and the mastermind defected over to the rival, so to speak. And so that should be interesting. But yeah, it was a drag to me. I just wasn't a fan overall of this WrestleMania. 2 nights it just takes away the interest. And then people are creating a false dichotomy though, because they're saying, okay, so make it 2 nights because I don't want to see 8 hours of programming. Now that's a false dichotomy. Why? Because you don't have to have 8 hours of programming. That's not the solid, set, locked in option. That's not the other option. That's not locked in as the other option. The other option can be 1 night of 4 hours or even 4.5. But I would just do 1 night of 4 hours. Why not? I mean, like, WrestleMania is the showcase of the Immortals. It is the biggest pay-per-view of all pay-per-views. It is the biggest event in all of professional wrestling. I don't care what other promotion you're on. I like Wrestle Kingdom, but there's nothing greater than WrestleMania. It is the Super Bowl of professional wrestling. So why do you have I don't mind 4 hours, maybe 4.5 hours, have a big half, even if you want to cut it in the middle and do a big show. They've done live performances before in Mania. Do it. Do a live performance in the middle of Mania and make it exciting. Make it big. Have Skillet perform at WrestleMania. That would be amazing. Skillet performing at WrestleMania? Absolutely. That would be so awesome. And so basically do 2 hours and some tax in the beginning, do a big performance, and do the rest at the end. 4 hours and 20 minutes, 4.5 even, something like that. I wouldn't mind that at all. Because you're telling me that the people who made it to WrestleMania is among the elite of that year, storyline wise, is among the elite. You're showing me that these people made it to the biggest stage because they were over, because they are a big name, because the storyline is intriguing enough to get fans to buy in. Not just throw that, like, come on, y'all. To fill a 2-night card, they're literally throwing matches or adding matches at the 11th hour, at the last minute. Who does that at WrestleMania? That's not a WrestleMania thing. You don't just throw a series of matches at the 11th hour. Who does that? That's horrible. Absolutely horrible to do. Too much. Oversaturated. Give me old school WrestleMania, cream of the crop, showcase of the Immortals. It is the showcase of the Immortals. It is the biggest names and biggest storylines in professional wrestling at the time. Period. As Monty Brown would say. The Pouts. Period. Let's see what we got for the PNP Nation over here. Hashtag XDoc. I see you, Dion. I see you, Chris. Kansas City Jayhawks, baby. I was watching it during the Legion of Raw show because Carolina was up 15. I was rooting for the Jayhawks. Why? Because you all know I'm a Duke fan, and Carolina beat Duke. The first and only and ever tournament matchup between Duke and North Carolina in their storied rivalry. North Carolina won, and it was tough. I was watching that on night one, and it hurt. It hurt my heart. And so I said, man, they're ending K's run by losing to North Carolina out of anybody to end Mike Krzyzewski's run. North Carolina Tar Heels. What a horrible taste in my mouth from that. So I said, okay, so I'm going to be petty because I'm still in my feels and I'm licking my wounds. So I want Kansas to win. And so they were up. Carolina was up 15 at halftime. And Kansas came back. And they were able to pull it out at the end and win the game. So I said, hey, I'm cool with it. I'm cool with Kansas winning. Sounds good to me. Elvis is asking, my least favorite WrestleMania 38 match was wide. To be honest, mine was Kevin Owens or Lashley's. Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you with the Kevin Owens. It just wasn't a good match. It wasn't a good match. The worst match for me was the New Day against Rich Holland and Sheamus. That was a terrible match. It's funny because you get it that had to be switched over to night 2 because they got cut because night 1 matches went too long. Talk again, it goes back to the drag. Goes back to dragging. It just felt like a drag on night 1. There was a match that was cut on night 1 because of that. And so, yeah. And then you put the match, the New Day versus Rich Holland and Sheamus. What in the world are we getting? Again, Vince Russo and I was talking about this. You're bringing in casual fans to WrestleMania. You're bringing in some casuals. So you want to showcase these casual fans to stars that you can really utilize for, just in case they stick around. Now, would you rather showcase a heel Sheamus and Ridge Holland with Scrappy Doo, Pete Dunne, Butch, beating up on Xavier Woods afterwards? Or would you rather showcase the New Day, who's charismatic, very intriguing, very heavy merch sellers, that can make you more money from the casuals, from them buying merchandise and being interested into the character? You chose not to push them and showcase them bigger on WrestleMania. In a match that they were giving a shout out to Big E wearing his gear, and you had them lose a match that was honoring Big E, who busts his butt for your company, just for you to have him have a horrible WWE Championship run, one. And two, the dude almost died. Like, at the very next to that, he almost became paralyzed. That's the sacrifice that he did for your company. One person else in that match had a WrestleMania moment just a few years back, Kofi Mania. But for some reason, you thought that the better option was to have Ridge Holland and Sheamus win, who no one really cares about that trio whatsoever. Just a very bad call. Did I see JJ Dillon and Kevin Sullivan on Judge Steve Harvey? I saw a picture of it. I might actually that was recent, right? I saw a picture of it and I saw people talk about it. I'm going to look it up and probably watch it very, very soon, maybe even after the show, if I remember. But yeah, I think that's hilarious. Ricky, as great as Reigns winning, it really is great that they have backed themselves into a corner, because with all these records he's broken, I can't see anyone that will beat him on any roster now. Well, he's a heel. Heels are meant to be beaten. So he needs to put over a babyface. I was happy that Roman Reigns won. I think that was a very good call. He's a heel, so he needs to put over a babyface now. But Roman Reigns has not lost a match in almost 2.5 years. Hasn't been pinned or submitted in almost 2.5 years. That's how you build a star. That's how you build a heel. Now, you are going to have to do a lot of work to build up a baby face to be able to get that amount of heat that Roman Reigns is building. If you really want to build another a top guy, a superstar, man, you're going to have to do a lot of work to really build a baby face that will be able to take that, beat Reigns, and be a legit top star that fans will endorse. Could have done that with Big E, but you dropped the ball on that. They did Raquel Gonzalez dirty. Okay, I didn't get it. I didn't get that. I saw bits and pieces of Stand and Deliver. I was super busy on Saturday, and I was able to watch a little bit of Stand and Deliver. I saw that they won the tag titles. So did I miss something from tonight? I did see that Harland kidnapped Rick Steiner. I did see that much. But did I miss something from tonight that happened? So just let me know. I told y'all I really don't watch NXT episodes. I follow on social media and see, just see what's going on at times. I usually try to catch the pay-per-views, every one of them. So I was able to see the ladder match, some of the ladder match. I saw afterwards that Cameron Grimes won, which I think is a good call. I saw the tag match, the women's tag match, and I think that's it. Ricky says Taker's Hall of Fame speech was epic. Him say never. I thought one last match, but he does look like he's done. And I'm fine that he's done. I mean, I was and I was like, it would be cool if Taker was the chosen person with handpicked opponent for Seth Rollins. That would have been cool. But it was Cody. That was expected. And yeah, his speech was amazing. Absolutely amazing. When he started talking about Michelle McCool and he said he restored his, she helped him restore his relationship with Jesus. And I said, oh, that's my favorite part of the speech. It was great. Big fan of it. If you add up the wrestling matches, it adds up to about 3 hours and 20 minutes of just wrestling for both nights combined. Well, if that's the case, Elvis, that proves my point even more. You have less than 3.5 hours of wrestling in 2 nights. That proves my point even more right there. PMP Nation, y'all continue to make it happen. Love it. I absolutely love it. Lots of interaction here. I love it. C-Rye, good match on NXT tonight, but the booking was horrible. So Raquel and Dakota won the tag titles on Saturday, only to lose them tonight to Toxic Attraction. I don't get it, but Braun and Gunther had a good match that Gunther lost. I'm pretty sure Walter would have won that match. Oh, so they had Braun go against Walter or Gunther tonight with no build with that? No build for Braun versus Gunther? Wow. That's weird. That's a pay-per-view match. So they had them win the tag titles just to lose it to Toxic Attraction? That's weird. They just beat them. It's very odd. Very, very weird booking. And no build to Braun versus Gunther? See, that's the reason why I don't. That's the reason. That's the reason why pro wrestling gets on my nerves nowadays. I've been watching pro wrestling for over 30 years. 35 years. Over 35 years, actually. And over 35 years, 36, 37 years, actually. Over 35. 35 plus years I've been watching pro wrestling. I would say the recent stuff is just horrible. I mean, it's just the character building, the booking, atrocious. Just atrocious, man. It's just atrocious. Because you're not building characters. If pro wrestling it's a comic book. That's the reason why they go to cons. They go to Comic Cons all the time. You have wrestlers at Comic Cons because it's about cosplaying characters. You got the Macho Man. You cosplay him all the time. You cosplay Sting all the time. And it's a comic book come to life. You have to build characters. You build the good guys by having them go against insurmountable odds with the bad guy that thinks that he's going to win, thinks that she's going to win, and the bad guys go against the good guys, and the good guys win at the end. That is textbook comics, and pro wrestling should have that same type of feel to it, and it did for a long time. That's what brought it to the dance. That's what allowed people to be so enamored and excited and ingratiated in pro wrestling. But now it's a different and not better approach to it. It's just not. The reason why so many people are losing their interest in pro wrestling is because there's the character building is just, it sucks, man. It sucks. I'm gonna take this off. Actually, I don't need this now. It sucks. And the problem is that when I'm looking at messages such as this one here, saying that there was a match of Braun Breaker, who needs to build his character up, against Gunther or Walter. Speaking of characters, you were just fine as Walter. That's like somehow changing Batman, who was well established, just like Walter was. He goes over to a different comic book, and now he's cricket dude, like, or he's night owl. Like, it's just not the same. You know, this is Batman. You know, that's Walter. So you do that, first of all. And then as Gunther, still established, still big presence, still someone who can make Braun Breaker over even more. And for some odd reason, let's just put it on NXT. Just a weekly show. No build. That's all. Dion, I thought the Lesnar versus Roman match was a joke. I would have done it differently, with like the Undertaker popping in and choke slamming both at DQ, with Taker standing over Roman and Brock with both titles. No, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have had Taker. Why bear the current talent for Taker? Taker wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have want that to happen. He's a business guy, so he wouldn't have want that. I'm all about big spots at Mania and feel good moments. I get you. I get you on that, Dion. But to end night 2 with him doing that, nah. Especially since there's no payoff. No. I liked Roman Brock. I think, see, people come into things with an expectation that doesn't meet reality. Okay. The reality of the matter is, you have a 6'4", 285-pound dude, and you have a 6'3", 265-pound dude. Going against each other. You're not going to get any super kicks, or you're not going to get any Canadian destroyers. You're not going to get any top rope frog splashes. You're going to get smash mouth pro wrestling. That's what you're going to get, and that's what you got. You got what you should have expected. 2 big football players, smash mouth wrestling. That's exactly what we got. I mean, like, I don't understand. Why would you expect anything different from Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar? It was very high paced. The fans watched the match again. The fans were into the match. There wasn't any flat moments like it was at Cody versus Seth. Again, watch it again. Cody versus Seth was too long. It buried the return pop because the crowd went flat. There was some very lull moments in that match. That was not interesting. Just wasn't. So overall, it put Cody over, and that's what should have happened. Returning, but I mean, there wasn't at the end of the day. It didn't. There were some moments that were flat in the match. Look at the crowd reaction, and they like the fast pace. It's funny because so many people talk about how much certain wrestlers are not they're not interested in them, but at the end of the day, they prefer high energy, high pace, smash mouth pro wrestling. And the attention span of wrestling fans is significantly lower than it was before because the characters aren't strong enough to work the crowd and to tell stories in the ring. So now you have to depend on high velocity spot fests to appease the crowd. Unfortunately, because it's back then, there was bad decisions outside of the ring that ended people's careers, such as endeavoring in drugs and alcohol. Now, it's bad decisions that are leading people to end their careers in the ring. Yes, you're playing video games outside the ring, but you're doing just insanely ridiculous moves to appease and to move up the plateau because the fans aren't excited about a Canadian destroyer from the top ropes. Now you have to go up to the rafters, and you have to do a Canadian destroyer there. You have to go to the top of the cage first, and then after a while, they're like, okay, well, this isn't as exciting as it used to be. And then you go up again to the rafters, and then you go up to the top of the building. It's called, again, I'm a psychology doctor, as you know. It's called the Coolidge effect. It's basically that your mind plateaus with the same stimuli after a certain amount of time. So you have to make variations of that stimuli. Like, for instance, a good marriage. It plateaus a lot in people's minds, and they just kind of go through the motions and do routines and things like that because it's just normal. Coming from work, handle the kids, do the night routine, rinse, repeat. I mean, it's just nothing that's there's no nuance. There's no variations of reinvigorating stimuli. My wife and I, we have a date night every weekend. We go to different restaurants. We have a great time. You have to invest. You have to invest in that. Otherwise, similar to a wrestling relationship, it will plateau early, and now you'll want different. And that's what happens. That's the reason why people get tired of certain wrestlers, because you're doing the same thing with them and you're not building their character. You're doing the same thing with them, and then people get tired, and then they start booing them because their stimuli is not appeased anymore. They plateau. That's how our minds work. That's how our minds work. Let's see. Stone Cold came out night one at Mania, exactly 3 hours and 16 minutes into Mania. Yeah, and I think that segment was too long. Would I agree with you that Vince still has it? No. Vince is now the oldest man to ever wrestle at WrestleMania. No, I would not agree with you. He looked he didn't look terrible for 76. I mean, his face, he looks like he looks aged for sure. He looks like an aged old man. I mean, he he doesn't look like ungodly horrible, but he's a 76-year-old aged man who's had a lot of stress in his life. And what happens when you have a lot of stress in your life? You start to you like the hormones in your body reflects the outward appearance a lot of times when you see that stuff. That's why high levels of stress actually increases onsets of dementia and Alzheimer's because of stress. You had him like Vince McMahon has been sitting behind gorilla position for 40 years, meticulously looking at segments, chewing people out, like stress to the max, making sure the product is, A1, and we're starting to see it. We're starting to see it in his face. So I think it was terrible for him to get back in the ring, but I get it. Vince McMahon is one of those guys like, hey, look, I'm not going to have you do something I wouldn't do. And ultimately that segment was to put Austin over. I actually would have rather saw Austin and McAfee. Like if you're trying to integrate Austin in a match, I'd rather saw Austin McAfee against Theory and McMahon. You have him come out and do that. The Austin Owens thing just didn't do it for me. It was too long. It was not good. Austin was slow. It gave him, it made him show his weaknesses more than his strengths. It didn't really do much at all to accentuate his strengths. It was mostly his weaknesses. You saw that match and you said, Austin, don't come back in this ring, please. And Austin's one of the GOATs. Alonzo in the house. What's up? Michael, what's up, man? God bless you. God bless you too, my man. My question to you is, since Cody made his intentions perfectly clear, do you think he would be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns? He bet not. He bet not be. Because he would become a heel. And I wouldn't take that risk. Because you're trying to groom the next babyface. You're trying to groom a babyface that's going to work. It would be a terrible idea to have Cody Rhodes beat Roman Reigns because he's going to get booed. Because they're like, no way. There's no way you're going to have Cody. No, it'll backfire. So don't have Cody come here to dethrone Roman Reigns, which that should be a spot for a heel. I mean, a babyface to beat him as a heel, to groom a top babyface. And yeah, I wouldn't do that. Although I'm not sure how they're going to do the 2 belts thing, because he's still carrying 2 belts. He gave us a cliffhanger for SmackDown. So we shall see. I still don't want them to unify the titles. I think there's room for both brands to have a champion. I would just kill the Universal Championship. I mean, I would bring back the world title, the Big Gold belt, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind. It would be cool if they brought back the Big Gold belt and Cody Rhodes won the Big Gold belt. That would be an amazing type of that'd be really cool for Cody to do that, especially from his promo on Raw. But yeah, any of night 1 was the greatest ending ever. I call that recency bias. Again, you're going to be hearing some psychological terms from me. That's recency bias. That was not the greatest ending ever. That is as glaring as recency bias as I possibly can think of right now. I think Sasha Banks should have had a bigger match for her first Mania win. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with her first Mania win being that. She won the tag team titles with her former, Team Bad tag team partner. Team Bad, 2/3 of Team Bad reunited, and now they're baby faces. It's not like they don't have any history together. So I'm cool. I mean, like the other matches, I mean, Bianca winning was the best thing of night one. That was fantastic. And yeah, I mean, that was cool. Charlotte Rousey, that was done for casuals. So I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at Charlotte versus Rousey for the sake of bringing casuals in. So I get it. So now you have a spot where you have Sasha, who's a staple name among, on the upper echelon of women's wrestlers over the past, 6 or so years. So they gave her a spot, and they gave Naomi a spot because they, the payoff with the Sonya thing was a bit abrupt to me. It was a bit anticlimactic, but she's been causing interest in the women's division on SmackDown. So this is a way to give her a payoff, give her, a thank you, so to speak, for her contributions on SmackDown, because she's been one of the most intriguing women's wrestlers on SmackDown because she's been involved in that angle. So Team Bad came back. They unified. They got history together. That's not necessarily a thrown together tag team because they used to team back. They used to team back as heels, as Team Bad. So it's not necessarily a thrown together. It's a reunited tag team, and they won. So I don't mind. Who do I think Cody should feud with after Seth Rollins? I wouldn't mind Cody Edge, but it looks like they're still gonna do Edge, AJ. So he's staying on the Raw roster. See, there's just it's such a depletion of talent, man. A heel that's big enough that would get him over right now. Wouldn't mind. Kevin Owens is fine because looks like they're going to do the whole Ezekiel thing, and I don't know what the heck that's doing. I wouldn't mind Cody versus Kevin Owens. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I can see them doing that. Pat should have faced Vince McMahon instead of Austin Theory, so Pat McAfee wouldn't have lost it. I don't mind. I mean, I don't mind McAfee beating Theory, and then losing to Vince. I think losing to Vince was a bad call until Austin came. So McAfee lost to Vince, which McAfee losing doesn't mean anything. McAfee losing to Vince for the sake of Vince looking stronger for Austin to get that heat, the rub from that heat. Like, it makes sense. It makes sense why they did that. C-Rod, night one killed night two. I don't agree. The matches were way better on night one. Night two was just entertainment matches. Right. That's the point, Chris. Like, again, Chris, we have to understand WrestleMania is for the casuals, right? Ezra Styles did not live up to what I expected. I agree. And Roman's versus Brock was the same match they've been doing against each other at all the Premier Live events. Not really, because this is the first time that Roman Reigns was healed at WrestleMania. Now, they've had other events in Saudi. They had I think this is like their 6th pay-per-view against each other. So I would agree there. I would agree there that it is overkill as far as Rock versus Roman. So the stakes were higher, which made it a little bit more intriguing. But I mean, no. I mean, it was just entertainment. Like, we have to understand, WrestleMania is to bring casual fans to the product. It's business, Chris. Like, you know this. It's business. So what am I going to do to bring more people to my product? Okay. I'm going to have an event that's going to attract more consumers. And then I'm going to have a follow-up that retains the consumers that I attracted with my event. I'm not like night one to me was a appreciation to the homers. That's what night one was to me. Sure, okay, it made the homers feel good. It made the homers happy, I guess, right? But that's not going to give you the business that you want. You want to attract more consumers to retain the more consumers that you attracted. That's good business. Night number 2 was faster paced. It wasn't a drag. It didn't cause the new consumers to say, I'm not interested. I'm getting bored. I'm going to turn the channel. That's what they did in night 2. Faster pace, very gimmick heavy. I wasn't mad at the Johnny Knoxville, Sami Zayn match. I wasn't mad at it. It made sense. Again, that's the stuff that you do to draw new consumers. And night 2 did that. And that's what interests me about night 2. That's the reason why I liked it better than night 1. I was looking at the watch, like night 1, it was like 11 something. I was like, man, this has been a drag. And again, the proof is it was such a drag that they cut the tag match because matches went over. It was a drag. And again, you have to understand, Chris, from as a wrestling homer, okay, night 1 most likely was better. But you can say that for any, like you can save that for any pay-per-view of the year. There's 12 months in a year. You can save that for any other pay-per-view. You're looking for glitz. You're looking for glamour. You're looking for excitement. You're looking for fast pace. You're looking for story arcs to be culminated. You're looking for intriguing enough storylines to tell a story in the ring. Hogan and Savage, WrestleMania 5, stemmed from the Mega Powers Exploded. Savage saying that Hulk Hogan was hot dogging and grinning, standing, yeah. And ended at WrestleMania 5. Savage had the title for a year, and it wasn't a boring reign. He had the title from WrestleMania 4 to WrestleMania 5. And it was a very intriguing gimmick. Told a story in WrestleMania 5. Hulk Hogan has never been the one who is known for his catch-as-catch-can pro wrestling grappling style. But it was intriguing because it was a story. That's what pro wrestling is about, guys. It's a story. It's a comic book come to life. I'm not interested in watching grown men in spandex rub on each other. Like, personally, I'm not interested in that. Okay, I'm just speaking personally. But what I am interested in is a story of 2 comic book characters come to life. A good guy, a bad guy, a story that shows why they don't like each other, and a culmination of that story, which is a fight at the end. I mean, that's pro wrestling. That's what got me to love pro wrestling. And if it's just action after action after action, it's a drawn-out plot that doesn't have a good payoff in the end, I think it's a bad comic book. Simple as that. It's a bad comic book. If I'm reading Raw as a comic book every week, it's a bad comic book. Period. And it's a comic book that I wouldn't subscribe to anymore if I was paying a monthly fee for this comic book to come to my home monthly. Okay? And I was reading this comic book as of Raw, if I was looking at this comic book and I got 4 editions of this comic book every month, 4 new batches, okay? One big drop of 4 batches of comic books every single month, okay? And I had to pay a subscription to it. And I was looking at this comic book this week of Raw. I would get action scenes in the very beginning. I would get a long, drawn out plot that led to nothing. I would get a whole bunch of fluff that didn't mean anything. I wouldn't get any good character building. I wouldn't know who these characters are because they wouldn't describe it good enough. It would be a very bad comic book. And that's the reason why Raw sucks. And that's the reason why pro wrestling is not as enjoyable as it used to, because I used to get Raw episodes. I used to get Raw as comic books, proverbially. And I used to look at characters and say, okay, well, this character does this. And this character stemmed from there. And this is the reason why I shouldn't like this character, because this character had this backstory. And now this character is going to want to dethrone this character and take him out. And okay, so now I'm rooting for this character, because this character is going to compete against this one who wants to take him out. So at the end of the story, I see the big fight and the good guy beats the bad guy. Oh, I'm intrigued. Send me more copies. Send me more editions. That's wrestling in a nutshell. And we have subjugated ourselves to think that mediocre is good enough. Our standard has lowered significantly in wrestling. And then if something comes close to the mediocre standard, we call that good nowadays. I'm not that guy. I strive for greatness. I strive for better. I strive for excellence. And my standard of wrestling is this, because that's what I was told. That's what I was given. And so it could be done. There's more technology to make it better. There's better talent to make it better. There's much better talent this era, this generation, than there was 30 years ago. The characters were better 30 years ago, but the talent overall, much better in the ring. But I'm just not intrigued, because they're doing a horrible job with building characters. Who do I think of the first person finally defeats for one or both of those titles? I think it's going to be Drew. But Vince and I, as you might have known, you're very interactive in all my shows. Speaking of interactive, by the way, hey, look, everybody who is watching the show, I appreciate the support that you give me. Follow all my shows, all right, and write positive comments, all right. We need I need some troll police. Okay, I have a very large following, and there's just people who troll. I'm actually was thinking about making a video about trolling, and the roots of trolling and why people troll, and how that can be tied to the dark triad of psychology and psychological traits. So, but it's funny because there's trolls, and then the people enjoy the show, and I see people like tell me that on Twitter or something like that. Like, subscribe to Sportskeeda, like follow my shows, and start commenting on my videos. The Legion of Raw, Riding with Russo, The Bro Show, so forth. All right, unscripted. Starts commenting, making positive comments on those, because it's just a good look, and I appreciate the support. And just to see a bunch of trolls, because people send me stuff, and just to see that stuff, I'm like, people are just miserable. I mean, people are miserable. It's funny to see stuff like that, because I'm like, it just goes to show how miserable people is, and how the internet has given a safe space for miserable people to feel comfortable in their misery. That's what the internet has done, unfortunately. Tina says, I understand what you're saying, but with how much I was not looking forward to WrestleMania, I was pleasantly surprised overall. Who do you see finally getting over Roman in the end? They don't build strong enough babyfaces anymore. So similar to what I said. Good call, Tina. Yeah, I mean, one, other than Bianca, the Bianca spot, I wasn't mad at Roman versus Edge. I wasn't mad at night 2, actually. I mean, minus the throwaway tag match with New Day and Sheamus and Rich Holland. Night 2 was fast paced, and there was like 3 segments on night 1 that you could have put on night 2, shorten the matches, faster pace. Boom, there's your 4.5 hours right there for night 2. Night 1 was unnecessary. The Austin segment of night 2, that was just fine. I mean, that, like, if you did that segment to lead to Austin doing his thing and making that a tag match, Austin and McAfee versus Theory and Vince, it would have put less pressure on Austin to have a singles match, which I don't think he should have had a singles match. Should have been a tag, because he needed someone to accentuate the positives of Austin, which is the hot tag, the mud hole stomp, the Thez press, the punches in the corner. That's Austin. Like that could have been Austin's spot, but we saw a whole match. Like it was overkill, and it was slow paced, and it was not good. There was a few good segments, like the Cody return, the Bianca win, like those things could have been brought over to night 2, and night 1 could have been canceled altogether. Yeah, so I said Drew. I think Drew's the way to go. Why didn't Ricochet and Finn Balor take a few more here? Defend their titles at Mania, yet we had to have Logan Paul and Johnny Knoxville wrestling matches. Now, I'm not mad at Logan Paul and Johnny Knoxville wrestling matches, because, again, WrestleMania is for the casual fans. So it's bringing new consumers to the product. People who don't watch wrestling anymore still watch WrestleMania, because they still have a affinity for wrestling, and they know that WrestleMania is the Super Bowl of pro wrestling, and so they'll watch it. And so what are you presenting that's compelling enough to keep them? That's good business. That's good business. That's good business. You're attracting consumers. That's good business. Business 101, ladies and gentlemen. It is the basis of good business. If you're continuing to cater to your homers and not attracting new consumers, your business is going to shrink, because eventually your homers are going to back out. A lot of your homers are, because your product isn't compelling enough to them anymore. And that's the reason why Raw's numbers significantly dropped over the past few years, because you have homers and you're only catering to the homers, and what you're catering to the homers isn't attractive anymore. So Logan Paul and Johnny Knoxville bring to a celebrity audience to bring them here. That's WrestleMania. I mean, that is what it is. As far as Ricochet and Finn Balor, their characters aren't strong enough. Ricochet, defeated. He had a good win against Los Lotharios, but he lost multiple matches before that. He won the Intercontinental title, lost like 3 times, and then he had a big win against a team that's not very well pushed. So it didn't make him look stronger. Finn Balor, like I've said before on my shows, I think Finn Balor is someone who WWE did not want to go to AEW and New Japan, because Finn Balor is the founder of the Bullet Club as Prince Devitt, and they don't want him to do that because he can fit it right in to AEW or fit right into New Japan, especially New Japan. And so they, it just seems like they promised him a title, a push, and WWE being petty, they gave him what they promised him. They gave him the U.S. title, and then they said, but then I'm going to make you realize that nobody's bigger than this company. And when he had a very sketchy winning streak leading to the U.S. title win, wins the U.S. title, and then goes back to looking like a glorified enhancement talent. Just a horrible way to book Finn Balor. Terrible way. And like I said before, they should have a Scott Hall Invitational. Scott Hall Invitational, and they should have 4 wrestlers from Raw, 4 wrestlers from SmackDown compete in an 8-man ladder match every year. That would be like the Money in the Bank spot for Mania. Everybody liked the Money in the Bank ladder match spot. Money in the Bank became its own separate pay-per-view. Now I think what you should do is you should have another ladder match concept. They would do Intercontinental title ladder matches for a second some years ago. Make that a yearly thing. Make the Intercontinental title exciting. We're looking forward to the Scott Hall Invitational every year. So that's making the Intercontinental title relevant. And there's bringing some anticipation with the Intercontinental Championship. Talk about one-night WrestleManias. You can put a lot of steam and excitement in a Scott Hall Invitational. 4 wrestlers from Raw, 4 wrestlers from SmackDown, instead of trying to throw people in WrestleMania just because. You could have had, like this year, you could have had 4 Raw and 4 SmackDown. For sure. Whatever WWE does with WrestleMania for 1 or 2 nights, all the titles should be on the card. It was so sad that the US and IC titles didn't make the card. Yeah, it's terrible. See, here's the thing, Ricky. Quantity doesn't always mean quality. Note that. Quantity does not always mean quality. Just because it's more doesn't mean it's better. Okay? Just because it's more doesn't mean it's better. So stepping back, like when I see this and I say going from 2 nights to 1 night, that wouldn't be stepping back because that would enhance the quality. If Raw was changed to 2 hours instead of 3, that wouldn't be going back. That would enhance the quality. More doesn't always mean better. And we see that every single week. Okay? Every single Monday night on Raw. We see that more doesn't always mean better. Everyone does not deserve to be on the Mania card. I 1,000% disagree with that. Everyone on the WWE roster doesn't deserve to be on the card, because why in the world would WrestleMania look different than any other pay-per-view if people who aren't being booked correctly, who are being built like trash, is on a pay-per-view that's supposed to be the biggest standard pay-per-view and is supposed to look better, look bigger, look grander. You can't look better, bigger, and grander if you have a bunch of mediocre 50-50 booking guys on this card. No. Again, more doesn't always mean better. Take that note. Cody promo last night. Do I think he'll be champion? So we talked about him being champion. Do I think that's the case? I think the promo was good. Jesus, for sure. I enjoyed Sane versus Knoxville more than New Day tag. Yes, absolutely. The New Day tag match was trash. It was horrible. Sane versus Knoxville was it was fun. It was very attractive to casual fans. It was a great way to use a celebrity. I wasn't mad at it at all. Rich Hollins, they haven't booked him as the future. Not at all. I kind of agree with one night of Mania. I think a 2-night Mania is just greed, specifically when we know budget cuts are coming. Good point, Aaron. Yeah, exactly. And it's just overkill. There's not one single year, because last year night 2 was trash. Night 1 was good. This year night 1 was meh, and night 2 was better, but it wasn't good. It wasn't great. It was okay. And it was a little bit of a decent. Night 1 was not very good. There was a few good moments in night 1, but overall, no. I was thinking Austin Theory is going to win the Royal Rumble next year. Yuck. That would be not good. All right. Let's see what we got. Yeah. Well, more Noel was upset. Why do I think there wasn't? Yeah, I noticed that, Elvis. I noticed that. It seems like they're trying to budget cut on the entrances. You gotta make the wrestlers look stupendous. You can't say stupendous and make the wrestlers look normal. Come on. No, I think Ezekiel will go back to the GQ magazine warehouse that he works at. Similar to this as well. Tina says, I'm a writer, so I'm constantly looking for the story in wrestling. I know this is biased, so you're not much on AEW, but I love to see Punk win the world title, then see Eddie Kingston beat him for it. They would bring that story full circle. It would be beautiful and unbiased. You know what, Tina? I think I would be interested if CM Punk wins the ROH championship. He just became a member of the ROH Hall of Fame. ROH is blending in with AEW. Punk is talking about being world champ. I wish they would have made a heel the champ for Punk to win it, and then Punk be ROH champion. That would be cool, actually. But making Lethal heel. I watched Supercard of Honor. Making Lethal heel again. He was just heel with Jonathan Gresham. Making him heel again. Bad call. Just a bad call. And they do all that for Samoa Joe to come out. You could have brought somebody else out there for that face off. I'm not a cool. And then now you've got you've got Sanjay Dutt, that didn't really. I mean, Lethal's for many years he was my all-time. He was not all-time. He was my current favorite wrestler for a number of years. Probably top 10 now, because I'm just not happy with Lethal's direction. I just don't like the way he's being used. And now he's a heel again, ROH. His heel runs are just ugh. When he was with the House of Truth, his heel run was actually pretty good. But people started to like him because he's Jay Lethal. He's a babyface. Jay Lethal's a likable guy. He's a babyface. Making him heel just doesn't make sense. Veer Mahan, terrible, absolutely terrible debut for him. Ugh. 3 Roman versus Brock Manias stack up to the 3-time man. I think it's the number 3 on the list. I would say Rock Austin would be their trilogy would Tripp and Undertaker was good too because they were at 17, 28 and 29. I'm going to say a close second, Triple H, Taker, just because I think it was unnecessary to book Taker for 29. I think it was unnecessary. Or 28. I'm sorry. I think it was 20. I think 27 was meh because they did the whole. I think he tapped to the Gogo Plata, Hell's Gate. Triple H did, and then he left, and then that's when they did the haircut thing because he took him out, and that's when he looked like Uncle Festus, and they did the Hell in a Cell match was good. 27 was okay. 17 was great. 28 was fantastic. The Hell in a Cell, that should have been Taker's last match, honestly. But Rock and Austin, it had that main event feel to it. Austin gets the last win at 19, retires Austin. It was the biggest feud. Like, the thing is, Taker versus Triple H was a good feud inside of the WWE bubble, but Rock Austin was like the feud in WWE. So I'll give it to that. I'm a fan of long 5-star matches if they have a story behind them that is coming from a story that's being built to that match. Long matches for long matches' sake, absolutely not. Absolutely not. No way. Good question. Good question, Ricky. Rock could be there next year. All right. Thank you, man. Thank you. Give the man some likes as well. Appreciate it. Love the pod. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Absolutely. Hit those likes. Sub to my Pancakes and Powerslams page. I get so many thousands of viewers on Wrestling Rumors. Yeah, I'm kind of putting some decisions together on the future of the show, but do me a favor and hit that sub for Pancakes and Powerslams. All right. Yeah, that surgery on my eyes, exactly. It was horrible. That stunner was one of the worst ever. Do I see Bray coming back? No time soon. Yeah. Rock shows up on SmackDown? No way. Big E may not ever come back. I mean, that would be very delicate to come back anytime soon. Riddle turn heel. I'm not mad at that. I mentioned that before. Randy versus Theory. Austin wins the title of WrestleMania. No, that I'm not a fan of that at all. Actually, Austin Theory. No, I mean, like, again, we're talking about wrestling. We're talking about the creme de la creme. We're talking about building stars to make the business better. And Randy Orton versus Austin Theory for the title next year. No. Asuka's cleared. They don't have anything for her. Bayley, I can see her coming back on SmackDown. Just Chris is 3 people WWE doesn't have anything to do with. Doesn't have any plans for. Same thing with Alexa Bliss. All right, real quick. Let's lightning through. No, I'm talking about heel versus Brock, Ricky. He smashed and stacked Edge and D. Bry last year, but I'm talking about against Brock. All right, let's see. So are you okay with 2 nights draw new consumers by what you just said? It's what's best for business. All I love, Dr. Featherstone. No, I'm not saying to draw a new consumer. I'm saying the product, like the product is drawn. Night 1 didn't draw new consumers. Night 1, like people aren't watching WrestleMania more on night 2 than they are night 1. Like, you're not getting another batch of people watching on night 2. It's the same batch of people. So blend it, truncate it to night one. Casual fans aren't going to spend the time watching 2 nights of WrestleMania, Chris. That's the thing. They're just not going to do that. You're not drawing a consumer base by doing that. All right, let's see. Before I get up out of here, let's see if that's everything. I gotta roll. I need some rest. On Ronda Rousey, yeah, I agree. I don't think they need Ronda Rousey. Yeah. What's up, Josh? I agree, Mike. Ronda Rousey is not needed. Ronda Rousey was to bring an audience to WrestleMania, which is the reason why she lost. Charlotte kept the belt because Ronda Rousey doesn't need to be champ. She was there to bring people there. What's next for Ciampa? Being in the C-rated Andre the Giant Battle Royal, basically. Yeah, I mean, last time 32 was over. It was like 102,000 people there. So it just goes to show that, I mean, it was 30,000. It was 25,000 people less at this WrestleMania. I mean, it was only like 65 ticketed. So they either inflated the number or they comped 12,000 people. The ticket, it was like 65K ticketed. So they could have inflated the number last time at 32. It was 102, but it was still probably about 85 to 90 ticketed. So you're still looking at 20 to 25,000 more tickets sold at 32 than it was this year because the product isn't strong enough to put 100,000+ people in seats. And trust me, I know about the tickets of of 2 Night Manias. You can buy twofers. They were actually having sale a promotion of buying 2 tickets for WrestleMania. So it's not 2 separate matches of people going on 2 different nights. You have twofers. You have people buying 2 tickets. People are going to get 2 nights of WrestleMania. So those numbers are going to be similar because there's similar people was going, which is 77 to 78,000 people both nights because it was the same people that came. The capacity, as we saw with 32, was 102,000, and they didn't have a big number. They could have because that stadium can seat over 100K, which we saw at 32. So, all right, I gotta go. Yeah, so like I said, it's around 90,000. That's fine. At 32, that's still 25,000 more than it was this year. So 6 years ago, there was 25,000 more tickets sold. And they have lower deals. They have deals where you can pay like lower for 2 tickets. So it's not much coming from 2 nights, even money wise. Now merch, I'll give you that. I'll give you merch for 2 nights, sure. But at the same time, you can still have merch at the arena. You can have merch. I mean, you can have that Saturday. You know, you have access. You have several opportunities to make money. I got to get out of here. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ricky. Why is the numbers inflated? Because 6 years ago, no flu. I mean, people aren't. Yeah, the COVID doesn't have anything to do with the significant lower shrinkage of ticket sales. People are going to buy tickets. I mean, we see stadiums filled up, during when numbers were significantly worse with COVID. It's the product. It's not, I mean, football fields fill up all the time. When COVID was worse. We're the tail end of COVID now, but it was worse and they were filling up stadiums. They inflate the numbers to make meetings, to make sales meetings look good, to make quarter meetings look good. That's the reason why they inflate numbers. I'm going to get out of here, man. Y'all be good. Y'all be good. International travelers. Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. But at the same time, again, even with international travelers, we're at the tail end of COVID. So, I mean, things have been opened up. I mean, there's international travelers all the time. I mean, that's the reason why Omicron and other variants came here, because there were international travelers. So, all right, I'm going to get out of here. Y'all be good. Until next week, enjoy your week of wrestling. God bless. And always remember, I do it for you. Have a good night, everybody. God bless. Bye-bye.